Leeds injury crisis goes on. Hashtag become soccer fans. Hashtag no good luck for the sport. Hashtag Lee idiots.
Okay, Neil McEwen said, Leigh fans slagging off Toronto team last week have got a cheek. Their discipline is fucking awful. Leeds now learning what it's like to be witness having lads dropping like flies. Matautia got to be looking at a long ban as that throw was nasty. Dawson needs a long ban if the RFL want to get respect back for the refs. Both have got grade E charges which carries a 4 to 8 game ban. So we'll see after the disciplinary hearings tomorrow what that leads to in the long term. But that's what bans both of those got. Do you want to take us on to Mark's view?
Yeah, Mark Butler said, Lee had a chance in this game and blew it. If, as the Kierans suggest, there's a culture change happening at Lee, then it's happening slowly. Kendall deserves credit for both red cards. He could have easily given yellow for the first and walked away from the second, but why should he? The big question is how many cards will it take for RL players to stop bashing other players' heads and to stop the lift?
Yep, Tim G Radio said, another what might have been. This could have been a gripping game, but a WWF audition from Matto Welter. Have I missed something there? Shut it down. Chris Kendall had a fantastic game and took the right action whilst also allowing the players adequate chance to behave. Leeds' cost of injury mounts. Have Fev now seen more injuries than the eye pitch? Well, they've seen more Challenge Cup games, and Challenge Cup games have been breeding a lot of injuries on that pitch, haven't they, for Hull FC and for the Leeds Rhinos?
Paul O'Brien said, thought the referee had a good game tonight. All the cards were correct. The two sin binnings were at a point where Ferris and Acton were girding each other and had the potential to explode. Lee played well despite having 12 men for much of the game.
And Rich Langley, we finish here, he said, can't argue with the call, but the red card killed this match. As Leeds' professionalism came to the fore and Lee had no answer. Semi-finals would have been interesting with Lee and Les Cats, but it wasn't to be. So, yeah, the starting point and almost the end point in a way came when it was 6-0 to the Lee Centurions and Peter Matautia absolutely tombstoned is the only way I could describe it. Matt Parcell, he lost his head when he missed a tackle and just completely. It looked so bad, didn't it, on replays as well, because he did come down right on his head and the back of his neck. It wasn't a good look, and he went off with a concussion later on in the game. Matt Parcell is a few minutes after that, but. And I'm sure he might miss a week or so because he's had a recent concussion as well that made him miss the game the round before, following from Magic Weekend, I think. Or was that a different injury? But he's had a concussion recently this year, I think, and it was awful, weren't it?
Yeah, it's just such a shame that it happened when it did. I was just settling down thinking, oh, this is going to be a good match. Lee have scored first. And then pretty much game over.
Yeah, and all the tries then Leeds scored. The first one was probably built off the back of just a bit of territory, and then Lee not having the numbers to cope with the Leeds. We'll have to call them the Rhinos and the Centurions or something here, because I don't know that it comes across which one I'm saying. But the Rhinos, made pressure told there. But then they went on a streak of scoring long distance tries. They were breaking across the middle of the field all over the place. Jack Walker absolutely revelled in the extra space, and he was a real star during that period. He grabbed his first try of the season and had a hand in most of the others. Jimmy the Kind Horse, that was a sad moment, wasn't it? After all the fearing for his life that he did at the eye pitch, and it turns out it was his hamstring at the Slopey Fev pitch that he should have been more worried about.
I must admit, I didn't actually watch all of the match. I ended up coming and watching some TV with Peter instead once I realised it was pretty much game over, and sort of just flicked on and off a bit.
Did you see the main talking point of the second half, really, which Lee really competed in, and they only lost narrowly on... In fact, they only lost narrowly, didn't they? 12-10 on points. 10, yeah. And Ben Crooks scored a try that was probably one of the highlight reel tries. He kicked it for himself, kind of beat young Jack Walker to the ball, landed a firm knee accidentally into the nether regions, as it were, of young Jack Walker, which led to an interesting telling what happened but avoiding telling what happened interview with Angela Powers at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw that moment, which was quite an exciting moment.
Yeah, I saw that actually. Yeah, no, it was a good try.
I didn't know Ben Crooks kind of floated around as a little bit fullback role kind of once Matautia went off, and certainly in attack, and that suited him. He is a really talented player, isn't he? He was probably Lee's best player on the day, I thought. You watched him come through. Do you think he should be back in Super League? Do you think he's good enough for that level, really, and is kind of wasted in the Championship?
It's a hard one because going forward, there is no question about his talent. He is a very good, very exciting attacking player. It's whether his defence is good enough, because that was what always let him down at Hull, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I've not seen enough of him against top quality opposition to know whether that has sort of shored up or not.
Yeah, no.
I mean, against Toronto at the Bash, he completely outplayed Nick Rawsthorne every time that there was a kick or anything. But yeah, it's just what his defence is like.
Yeah, no, I think there's still maybe question marks there. I do like him as a player though, as a a ball player and those sorts of things. Because they're not all about the negative stuff that gets thrown at Lee. They've got some good rugby league players in there as well. Ben Reynolds is another player I enjoy watching play without a doubt. But it does come back round to the grubbiness and the lack of discipline, which apparently is no longer part of their MO. But you go a long way for me to believe that so far. Not just from the way the fans acted on the terraces. Anyone who gets out of their seat and goes down towards the advertising hoardings to verbally berate the match official should be withdrawn from the game and should be given a temporary banning order just to teach them that it's not really appropriate. Because they were horrible scenes to see, especially because the game was gone. That was the second half.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was a contentious, that might affect the match.
No, but when you see the players doing what Matty Dawson-Jones did, he's got better lip towards match officials than he's got finishing ability, I would suggest, Matty Dawson-Jones. If I lip read it correctly, he called Chris Kendall a fucking cheating bastard, which...
That's what I was told it was as well. I didn't see the incident, but yeah.
Which I can't believe that... the scoreline at the time was 52-22, and not because of the referee making lots of mistakes that led to field position and tries. It was because of someone getting sent off for a terrible tackle. Unfortunately so, because I don't think he intended to do such a terrible tackle, but it was a terrible tackle, deserves a severe punish. And then Lee not adjusting to it. I mean, it's unbelievable that reaction came, especially at that sort of a game. I know it's an emotional atmosphere playing in a game, and Matty Dawson-Jones actually had worked his absolute arse off in this game. He'd covered a lot of ground in trying to make up for breaks further up the field. He'd put in some huge hits coming in off his wing to cover a missing man in the defensive line, and all those sorts of things, because it was him who lost his centre really when Crooks went to fullback in effect. And yet he completely let himself down with this behaviour towards the end, and all the goodwill had started to build up for a player I've regularly criticised for not quite making the grade in my eyes. I was starting to swing round a little bit on Matty Dawson-Jones, and he's undone any of that. Not that he cares, but he's undone any of that. And there was the sin bins, which was Chris Kendall doing the opposite of what Scott Mikalauskas did in the Hull against Featherstone game, also at Post Office Road in the Challenge Cup in the previous round, which was cutting things out before they got started, really. So I don't have any real aggravation with that. I think he handled things pretty much appropriately with all those instances, and he also didn't let himself get flustered by some abusive people from the crowd. Leeds scored some cracking tries, didn't he, in that first half? That put it all out of whack.
They just cut through Lee at will, didn't they?
Was there any particular highlights from yourself?
To be honest, they've all merged a bit into each other.
Jack Walker's kind of individual run through the middle that did that was quite exciting. I thought it showed what he's got going on, really.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll do some stats. 400 more metres and 1.3 metres per carry better average game for Leeds against the Lee side that went under 900 total metres. Lee only made one extra error than Leeds and only gave up one extra penalty, but losing the card counts by 2 reds to none was an issue for them, particularly the early red for Matautia. Okay. On to Sunday's game I'm only joking. Saturday's game at the Halliwell Jones Stadium, which finished Warrington Wolves 23, Wigan Warriors 0 in front of 10,213. Robert Hicks.
Big tuning in, especially for this one, Mark. We can't miss it.
Well, you know, they might get what they want, but I doubt it. Robert Hicks was the referee. Do you want to take us through the first of the fan reviews?
Yes. At Robbie Merger said, Wigan make no meters from the play of the ball. Powell and Lulai combined meters are a fifth of Clark's meters gained.
Yeah, I thought Clark was exceptional in this game.
Right.
Wire Joe said, any questions that were raised after our poor performance at Magic were answered today. Our forwards really stood up and dominated against the pack that completely bossed them 2 weeks ago. Hill was particularly good. Roberts had his best game in a Wire shirt. His attacking kicks were superb. Pleasing for Patton to get the final score and banish the demons of last year's missed drop goal too. Great day to be a Wire.
Benjamin79 at big_Ben1 said, Warrington were as good as Wigan were bad for the full 80 mins. Simple as that. Sad face.
Tom Eckley said, game played at impressive speed by both sides given conditions. Roberts is looking better every game and thought Hicks deserves a lot of credit. Cannot wait to wrap the series victory next month.
Brian Davies said, having seen the video this morning, it seems to me Sam Tomkins does nothing at all. He's just standing at the back looking thoroughly embarrassed to be there and desperate to leave ASAP. But enough about the cup loss to Wire. What's all this #Rectum of Wigan stuff about? Not mine, but I thought it summed up Wigan's weekend pretty well.
Yeah, I think the tweet that is quoted there was from Stuart Lake. I think it's a Cass fan who is quite funny on Twitter. Yeah, that was a good one. I did chuckle at that one, certainly. Yeah. Roger the cabin boy said, if Sean Wayne is relying on his team's performance to get himself a new job, he'll be lucky to get appointed as a water boy, let alone a head coach.
St David says, Wire had their revenge with a hugely committed and impressive performance. Clark, Hill, Roberts and dare I say Atkins were very good. They shut down the golden edge and Wigan didn't seem to have a plan B, with Williams looking sluggish to me. Bateman was a standout for the Pies again. His defence was outstanding throughout. On this form they will be confident of going back to the final.
David Lawrence at David Lorrow said, how much of Wigan's performance was down to off the field issues or Wire outthinking them? I think it was. My answer to that, David, is Wire just outplayed us. From the start to the end, they were the better team. They were more enthusiastic than us, which is something that they probably weren't 2 weeks ago. I think we did out-enthuse them 2 weeks ago. We bossed them in the physical battle. Whenever in this game, Wigan looked like they were just starting to get on top in a physical battle, and they might have won 2 or 3 or 4 tackles in a row. There was always a tackle in that set, defensive set from Wigan, attacking set from Warrington, where either Ratchford or the very, very impressive Darryl Clark jumped out of dummy half, made 20 metres from a quick play of the ball, something that Wigan couldn't cope with, and you know, talking about the meters made from the play of the ball, that was all off the speed of the play of the ball. Warrington won the floor every time. They won the collision almost every time, and whenever they didn't let it knock the confidence. They just went to the next play and pulled something out on the next play, and I can't say enough how much the best team won and deserved their win. I don't think it was an effort thing from Wigan. I think there was plenty of hard work there. I do think we were lacking in quality at certain periods. George Williams' last tackle options were pretty poor. Whenever George Williams tried to attack the line, no one was with him, so it did seem that he reverted to what he can often be criticised for, which is not just not playing to a structure, but also playing a game that no one else is playing with him. So it's like if he changes up what he wants to do and starts thinking about, I'm going to start becoming a bit more virtuoso about it. He's got the talent and the skills to deliver some things off the back of that, but he needs people to be going with him. And I don't think he talks to the players around him to say, right, in the next set, if the chance comes, I'm jumping inside and going on a run. Will someone support me and stuff like that? I don't